It's a pleasure to be with all of you tonight. Due to some scheduling and some timing issues, I'm actually on the road traveling. So because of the shadows coming across my face, it's kind of hard. And I jiggle up and down. I'm going to be going out my video tonight. But I am just so thrilled to be with each and every one of you. So a little bit about who I am, and let me get my screen sharing going here. But I have been a club director at the Stevensville Challenger Club in Stevensville, Michigan for the last 5 years. Before that, I was the club director. I was our adventure club director, and for about 5 years as well. So I am very well versed in many things regarding staffing and keeping staff in Pathfinder clubs. And yes, this is something that you cannot do alone. Absolutely not. So in Luke 10:2, it says, "Then he said to them, the harvest, it truly is great, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." So we need people to run an active club. And depending on the size of your club will depend on how many of those people that you need. But it is just something that it comes down to, there's just so much going on, and you've got to figure out what it is. So first of all, this is my view of what's the purpose of Pathfinders. The purpose of Pathfinders, in my view, is to lead kids to an intimate relationship with Jesus Christ. So that's my goal. Every time I work with, as I'm planning club activities, doing things, this is what I have foremost in my mind. So to me, the purpose of recruiting is to get staff who will help lead kids to an intimate relationship with Jesus Christ. This is why staffing is so important. And when you look at staffing, and when you look at recruiting, and when you look at people, what is it about them that the kids can see Jesus Christ living in them? Can they help lead those kids to Christ, whether they're doing what would be considered a minimal job, or like maybe even just being a camp cook, or are they somebody who's wearing the uniforms? But whatever they're doing, I want them to have foremost in their mind that our purpose is that we're wanting to lead kids to Jesus Christ. So let's first kind of take a look at club structures. For a small club, I would say under 10 Pathfinders and under, literally for a minimal amount, you can get away with 2 people, a director and possibly a deputy director or whoever else you want it to be. And the recommendation here is that you have 1 male and 1 female. Now, this is the size of club I grew up in. Actually, I was in such a small family church that my aunt and uncle were my club directors, and my sister and I and about 5 to 6 other of my cousins were made up the club. And so I'd seen my aunt and uncle run a club successfully with that group for many, many years. But a small club is actually going to have the potential of, maybe you want to add a counselor or honor teachers or even a cook for camping. Now, keep in mind, when I was in this Pathfinder club, it was easily 35 plus years ago. I know I'm telling my age a little bit, but us kids were required to do our own camping, our own cooking. We brought our own food, did our own cooking. And believe me, if we were to talk about camp cooking, I have a ton of stories to share about camp cooking on my own. A medium-sized club is one I feel is to be about 25 to 45 members. Here you're going to have probably a director, well, it kids. And this is one of the things about what you want your staff ratio to be. You know, if you feel like you can handle a 10-to-1, I don't recommend 10-to-1. The most I really like to do is a 5-to-1 ratio, but if I can even get it a little less than that, as I had it at Oshkosh, then that's what I will really work on doing. So then you've got, like I said, you've got your counselors, and then maybe at this point you're going to add in a separate person to take care of your secretarial duties and your treasurer, kind of keeping track of the monies. Potential add-ons are going to be honor teachers. Potentially will be something that you would add on here. People who you're going to bring in specifically to teach those honors. Now we're looking at a larger club, 50 plus Pathfinders. Now, let me go back. When I started with the current club at the Stevensville Challengers here in Michigan, I inherited a club of about 18 kids. And as I took to Oshkosh, we took 58 kids, I believe, to Oshkosh, and I had 67 registered for last year. So I've gone from a medium size, what I call the medium sized club, into a larger club. And so here, you know, you'll have a deputy director, secretary, treasurer, counselor. On here,
Marcia, right now we can't hear you. It might be necessary to pull over to the
you
side
can't.
of the road to have reception, but we've lost about 60 seconds of your voice.
Okay. Hello, Cheryl?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. We're trying to find a spot to pull over.
All right. Most of the time it's been all right, but the last...
What day is last in here? Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
We've lost reception with you, Marcia.
Down here, John. Cheryl, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we're pulling into a spot. We'll sit here for a little bit.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marcia.
Okay, sure, not a problem.
We are the Pathfinder Strong.
So, all right. So what was the last part you heard, and then I'm back?
You were talking about the large club and the amount of staff that are needed in the large club, and that you had, as Evansville director, had shifted from a small club to a larger one, and the type of staff you needed for that.
Oh, okay. So really, we didn't miss a whole lot. I am going to share my screen again, and of which I'm gonna, can you see the my document about right now?
It's coming up. It still says that you're sharing your screen, so let's give it just a moment.
Okay.
Yeah. I potentially could also share it if you're at a site that doesn't permit it. You sent it to me, so I'm going to start downloading it, Marcia, as a backup in case I need to share it.
Cheryl.
Okay, yes, we can see you. We can see your screen.
You see the one that says larger club, right?
Yes.
Now, do you see the flow chart for my current club?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry about the delay.
Not a problem. Thank you for your adaptability.
Sure. So currently, this is my plan for this next year. We have me as the director. I have a deputy director. And then from here, we've got a lot going on. We've got a boys counselor, a girls counselor. We then have our secretary. We've got someone who's in charge of march and drill. I have a communication director, and I have my worship leader. Then within this structure here, we have under the deputy director who also handles the TLT stuff, he has an associate TLT or assistant director. And then we have all the TLTs, which our TLT number is right around 15 kids. I then also created one called IA organizer, meaning they're going to be the one organizing the investiture achievement, making sure that all of the investiture achievements gets completed. And then I'm going to have somebody assist with making sure the honors the club is doing is they are going to help organize that. They will help me recruit honor teachers, and they will make sure that we have all the supplies for the honors that are being taught. Under march and drill, we have a standard march and drill leaders. We have both fancy and basic. And then under there, we now are starting what we call a drum corps leader, but keep in mind, with this drum corps leader, we're not doing what I would call real drums. We're working with metal or plastic buckets. We are also known as the Bucket Brigade, just to give you an idea. Then under each counselor, we have units, boys units and girl units. And TLTs are actually the ones in charge of the units that we have listed here under boys and girls unit. Then those that are talking to the IA organizer is going to be the teachers for each IA. Sorry, I didn't go back through that. I then have, and I've plugged in some names here as current staff. Then I've got some staffing that I have showed down here, and the one I forgot to put in here is my camp cook. In a club this size, I leave of the cooking that has to be done for any of our functions. I have a staff member who he doesn't really kind of want to be a teacher. He's not necessarily an honor teacher, but he's what I call my floater. He's also kind of the go-to, or if I need supplies. I'm really famous at being involved or getting involved in a meeting and going, as I started a meeting, remembering I forgot to go purchase something, and luckily for us, a good department store is right down the road, and I can say, oh, I need that, and he will run and get that. we have a young woman in our club who she is working on her master guide, but is not necessarily has all of the capabilities of someone because of some challenges she was born with. So we're putting her in what's called an organization assistant. And so she's going to be the one that during each meeting, the IA classes have their pens or pencils, has whatever kind of things they need like that. If copies need to be made, she's going to be able to make all of those copies. So she's really going to be very important and an integral part of my organization. And then I have another staff member who, between floating and I want him to focus this next year on making sure we get Pinewood Derby cars created. So that is kind of a look at how I am organizing our club this next year. Now, there is one position I don't have indicated in here, and that is not the assistant director, but it's the assistant to the director. And that there is filled by my spouse because I need somebody who can kind of take a look at me in the eye and say, Marcia, maybe you need to tone it down a couple, or maybe you need to go to your timeout, or just somebody who I can just totally rely on no matter what comes my way. That stability force that sometimes as a director, especially of a larger group, that you might need. Cheryl, I'd like to stop here and see if we have any questions on this.
We have one person asking if you could share your organizational chart after class.
Yes, I will forward this to, I'm going to remove some names and I'll forward this to you.
That would be welcomed.
Okay.
The next question coming up is one of the first for the worksheet, but I know you're getting to that next.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So keys to successful recruiting and preparation. 1, know your vision. I'm going to just go through these keys really quickly, then I'm coming back and expound each one of them. Know your needs. Know what you are asking them to do. Know who you're targeting, and cultivate relationships. So let's take a look at this first one. Know your visions. Know your vision. Some questions here to ponder as you're thinking about this, knowing your vision. What is my 1 to 5 year plan? And you might go, what, 5 years? I didn't accept Pathfinder directorship for 5 years. Well, let me put it to you this way. To have good continuity in your club, I would encourage you to accept a directorship position based on the fact that you would take it for, unless something were to come up, a minimum of 5 years, or at the very least 3 years, because this will help you as you build things along. Then you have to think to yourself or talk about, what is it that I want to accomplish? And then what are my top 3 goals that I may want to do year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5? Because no matter the size of your club, you shouldn't feel like you have to take and do everything all in that first year, especially if you're a brand new club director. You really should take this, what can I do each year, and build on that each year. The next one, know your needs. The question to ponder is, well, to understanding your needs, you need to know how many Pathfinders you have. Try to get that figured out. What do I want my Pathfinder to staff ratio? Who do I have already? And where are my weak areas? So when you guys see that organizational chart from my club again, You will see that what I would consider one of my weak areas right now is I'm needing to replace our secretary. And our secretary is the one who's done all of the uniform ordering, helping parents order their parts of it, because there's some the club provides and some we have the parents provide. The other thing that the secretary has done is made sure that anytime investiture comes, or actually anytime we have a baptism come around of a Pathfinder, that I have a baptismal pin to present to the Pathfinder. All the stars and slides available. Also, we come to investiture, make sure they're the one that does the big order for all of our supplies that are needed for investiture. So these are the things I have the staff member do. The person who's been doing it for many, many years has need to back out. And so this is why it's become one of my weak areas. Know what you're asking them to do. Are you asking them to supervising? Are you asking them to organizing? And one of the big questions I get asked is, am I requiring them to go camping? Interesting enough, I have staff members, a few of them, who camping is not their thing.
We've just lost Marcia. It looks like we've lost Troy Lightbearers as well. Yes, we've lost our professor. I'll phone her and see if she can reconnect with us. Okay, she's coming on. Glad you're back, Linda.
Hello?
Welcome back. We lost you.
Sorry, I'm sitting. Let's try this again. Where was I at when you lost me?
We lost you for about 3 minutes.
3?
Yes.
Okay. Just know what you're asking them to do?
Yes.
Okay, good.
You were talking about the importance of the
We've
5-year plan, even if you're not going to be there for 5 years, so that you could be intentional.
Okay, so that was your vision. Did we talk about knowing our needs?
Yes, and what your weak
Did you
area
catch that?
is in terms of you have a secretary.
Okay, and then
person and camping. Yes, you were just starting camping.
Okay. So my is that I have some positions that, for instance, that I would not require, like for instance, my secretary position. A couple other positions, I wouldn't necessarily require them to do keeping positions that's for keeping. These are questions that you have to be ready to answer when you're asking what to do. And since I'm actually, this is the first time in a number of years I've actually had to do some really heavy recruiting, and I'm in the middle of this right now, and actually
You're in and out, Marcia. You're mentioning that you're in the middle of recruiting.
Okay, so we're in the middle of recruiting. So my nominating committee has been helpful in helping me do this. They actually don't just go and talk to people to see if they want to help with Pathfinders. They actually talk to me first to make sure this is somebody that I could be working with. So know who you're targeting. Not everybody who volunteers to be involved in Pathfinders is a good fit for Pathfinders. So you have to think about what is your group and what kind of needs do they have. Is this somebody who easily connects with kids? Take a look at the people around church. Who is it that the kids are willing to go up and talk to? Who are your leaders in the lower divisions sometimes? Or who have been that the kids can connect to? What attitude does this person have? This is huge. Am I not screen sharing? Probably not.
And it may be that you're having a hard time to transmit both audio and the screen share.
You guys have my PowerPoint. Why don't you screen share for me?
Good idea, Marcia. I'll pull up the screen share. You can keep talking. And maybe we'll get better reception if you don't do screen share.
That might be it. Okay, let's go back to the one right before that, number 13.
All right.
Slide 13. There you go. Wonderful. So here we are, you know, what is it? So I'm going to go back just a little bit. What type of person does it take to be in Pathfinders? And interestingly enough, sometimes it's people who don't think they could be in Pathfinders that end up being really good Pathfinders. Another source to utilize would be your parents. I don't try to overuse the parents. If a parent is seeming to want to be involved, and I have many of them that will come and say, hey, if you need anything, let me know. So who do the kids connect with easily? And what attitude does the person have? And attitude to me is totally a top requirement. I want somebody who's positive. I don't want somebody who's negative. I want somebody who is going to pump those kids up, who will be excited about being at a Pathfinder meeting, who will say positive things about the uniform and not negative things, even though they might be feeling the negative things. Or I want them to be willing to support me and go on the crazy journeys that I take my Pathfinder Club on. Let's go to the next slide. The next slide on this is cultivate relationships. You have to ask yourself as the director, who can I work with? Can I work with that person? Because we live in a world of which not everybody is perfect, like me, but but I need people who I can actually, that was a joke, by the way.
All right, we've lost you again. Marcia, I hope you could come back again shortly. It seems to be very unstable. We lost Marcia again.
All right. Oh, here she
She's
is.
trying to come
Okay.
back on.
All right.
I have to.
Okay, we're good. You can come back, Marcia. You're dealing with the importance of people's attitudes.
My connection might be a little better.
Okay.
So can you still hear me okay, though? I just lost them again. Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Then I'll keep on. So now we're at cultivating relationships, trying to figure out this particular person. That is very important, because so often we get in situations where it's hard to actually find people, or we figure out that with this person I don't have a good working relationship with them.
It's faded again.
I don't know about you,
Marcia, it's faded again. About the importance of having a good working
relationship. Is it better?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so then ask yourself, can I go camping with this person? Because camping brings out all kinds of sides of people, and they see you sometimes at your best and your worst. And so you have to say, yeah, I can go camping with this person. And then the other question is, will they be able to deal with me under pressure? Because no matter how, as a director, you might try and avoid it, you will potentially always have some sort of pressure that you are dealing with. And that can be hard on friendships and relationships. And so this becomes very important to understand. John, I got much better signal here. So let's go to the next slide. So here's the big ask. Don't be someone's no. Don't expect, park at Lunkers. Don't expect somebody to say no when you ask them to assist you. Maybe put it in smaller bite-sized pieces. Maybe they feel a little overwhelmed, but don't expect them to say no. Actually expect them to say yes. Next one. No one swims towards a sinking ship. What this is meaning, this is saying is that nobody wants to be involved in an unsuccessful Pathfinder club or adventure club. They are looking for there to be success. And the more successful your club is, the more apt they are to say, hey, I want to get on that bandwagon and join that. And join that club. I see all kinds of fun that they're having, what they are doing. Let's go to the next one. Discover why. If somebody tells you no, or if they say, I'm not sure, find out maybe their hesitations. Why is it that they're going, well, no, this is really not what I think I want to do. So maybe one year you can say, well, how about for this year you come in and teach and honor, or you come in and do some worships, or you just come in and get connected with us a little bit. Give them something little to do. Start with that, and then maybe as they see the club and get to know the kids, they will want to become more and more involved. But accept their why. Making somebody feel guilty is not going to make them a happy staff member. Let's go to the next one. And now tell them why they're needed. Explain to them their importance. I have had some staff members in the past who have felt like they haven't contributed anything or that they weren't contributing. But once I was able to show them the positive impact that they were having on the kids or even on me as the director, it made a really big difference. So if you can explain to them, show them what skills that they have and how that could be enhancing to these kids' lives, that can sometimes help them sway their decision. Let's go to the next one. Help address their fears. They all, oh, kids, the biggest one I get is, oh, that age of kids scare me. Well, they scare me sometimes too, but you just don't let them see your fear. Um, you just keep going. And but no, help them understand where their fear comes from, and that fear is, that it's justified. Again, don't ever put anyone down. Let's go to the next one. Respond quickly. If you have got while you're recruiting, some questions come up, don't put them off. Talk to them right away. It shows them how important they are to you, to the club. But if you just put off responding to them, they feel like they are not of importance, so why should they take this seriously? Next. Okay, let's look at some unlikely gems, as it's called. Let's go to the next one, please. There are pitfalls. You can badger people and then they can be totally turned off. So let's not do that. Next one. Assuming, again, don't go in assuming they will say no. Don't recruit people on false pretense. So don't say you need them for one thing, and then once you have them recruited, you then tell them that they have to do another. An example would be camping. If you've recruited them and you've made an agreement with them that they don't have to go camping in their position that you're recruiting them for, don't back out on that. Make sure that everything is clear. And we've talked about guilt tripping people into joining is not an effective recruiting tool at all. Screening. We all have to be screened. Whether it is because we do not know what somebody's background is. We live in this world of where things happen, and we have to be willing to make adjustments as needed, and because the safety of our children should be foremost in our minds. So what you might think is someone who you see them in church and you go, oh, I bet they would be really good with kids, but let's say that there's something in their past that we don't understand, or something has happened and that we have to protect our children. Unfortunately, we live in a world of which that has to happen. Let's go to the next screen, or then, yeah. So we have here, we do shield the vulnerable. All of our staff members are required to do this. One of the things the secretary does for me is help me keep track of who has done it and when their renewal has to come up, because it's not a once done, it's done. It's every 3 years that this is required of them to do. Here in Michigan, we also do the background check, and they actually also look at your ticket or speeding record as well. In fact, I had one of my staff members come to me tongue-in-cheek, and said they had just received their second ticket in a matter of, because I think you can't have more than 2 tickets within a 2-year period of time, and they had just received their second ticket in 8 months. And so they were going to be out for a while of not being able to drive. They were one of the people who was one of my main drivers. So I actually had to, at that time, had to do some adjusting as to who could ride with them. They could take they had children in the club. They could take their own children, and they could take staff members if the staff members chose to ride with them. But other than that, they were not allowed to do driving for us. Let's go to the next screen. So training. Training is so important, and training comes at multiple levels. Here we have Pathfinder staff training events in Michigan. We have some that are led by the conference. I do some staff training in my own club as well. This is done sometimes during staff meetings and outside of staff meetings. We do trainings, and trainings can come in the form of talking to them about conflict, how you will handle conflict, talking to them about how even training on how you would develop an honor, or how you would teach an honor, how you would work in an IA class. One of the things I have talked to the staff about quite a bit, and those who teach our investiture achievement classes, I want them to be able to make IA time exciting and dynamic, and not just sit there and have to write and write and write in journal books, but how can they make it more interactive and engaging? And so yes, having those one-on-one interactions is critical in how we do our training. Next, please. Go on. So what is your role as the director? Number one, obviously, you're going to pray over each and every decision that you make, and recruiting that you talk, and anybody you recruit. Listen to what God is saying to you. Set a good example. Be the kind of director, be the kind of person you want them to be. Establish a good rapport with with the person that are your staff members, and allow complete honesty. I want my Pathfinder staff to be able to come to me and talk to me about anything, even if they're disagreeing with something I said. Now, when it comes to us dealing with the kids, I want us to have a united front. But if they disagree with on how something I handled something, or I disagree with something on how they've handled something, I will not go and talk to them in front of that kid or children. We'll talk on the side, because so that I can have a greater understanding as to what the idea, where they were coming from, and they can understand where I'm coming from. Then if you have issues, make sure that you don't take sides on issues between staff and kids, especially. That you are open to each side, because we all have challenges. And finally, or another part of this is kind of keep your cool. Try not to get worked up. Try not to overreact to situations. Continuing with your role is take time to learn the facts. So if they are issues, which I've had, obviously with the club, you cannot not go without issues. You know, if somebody, and I've had some kids come up to me and they've had an issue with a staff member. I've listened to that kid, or the kids, and then I have gone and I've talked to the staff member and I've listened to them, and then I've actually brought the two of them together, and I do the same thing when it comes to dealing with kid-on-kid issues as well. I let my staff know I appreciate them greatly. I hope I do, at least. One thing we were able to do, because the staff had helped us work so hard with fundraising, before Oshkosh, we were able to give the staff a deep discount as to the amount they were going to have to pay to go to Oshkosh, which was real awesome to be able to give them that. And I tried to actually write them, or actually give them a note and something around the holiday times as well. And we meet regularly, monthly at the minimum, and sometimes more than that if needed. And I work with them on making sure we have a clear program so that everyone knows where we are at. And the better the team, the better you are at working together, because team building is very important. You want the group to work cohesively together, and if you need to do activities with them that helps build teams, it does make a difference. So I believe this is the end of that slideshow. I'm going to turn my video back on for a few minutes. We are sitting still. Do we have any questions or comments that we would like to talk about?
Robin asked, should we have a person that is in charge of field trips and fundraisers?
Yes, if you feel that that is something that you want included in your group, then that is something that is under my role right now as director. So I'm taking that on. That's why you did not see that on my club spreadsheet. So yeah, what I was shared was just what I use for my club. I am recommending that you figure out what is best for you and your club situation. Because you might even want somebody to totally handle the outreach part of your club as well.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Feel free to write in the chat or the question and answer. We got an interesting question from Alex talking about how is Shield the Vulnerable done outside of the United States? I think it would be incumbent to check on your country's requirements in leading out programs that you are in charge of children. So check what your country's regulations are. I think that would be the answer to that one.
And I would say that if you don't really find anything in your area or your government, that it would be something that you could possibly find a resource online that would have something that you could even have them do a Shield the Vulnerable. This is just an online class of which they become more aware of when you know how you can recognize children who are vulnerable and what kind of situations. Now, as far as background checks and things like that, that's actually done through the government. So that, again, that's going to be a government thing.
Angelica asks, if you have a really small club, I mean, 8 Pathfinders, and they're all separated through all the classes, 2 friends, 1 companion, 3 ranger, 1 voyager, 1 guide. What would the ratio and how much staff do you think should be required for that, for just 8 Pathfinders?
Well, how much work do you want to do? I've actually seen it where my sister has a really small club in Pennsylvania, and she's the director, and then she has 2 other staff underneath her, and they actually combine the classes. So like they'll run Friends and Companions together, and then they'll run the Rangers and the Explorers together. And ideally it would be great if you had kids the whole time through, because what they actually end up doing is they, like, one year will do all friend stuff, the next year will do all companion stuff, and then switch it. Then when those 2 move, or then when those move up to the next, that's when they do that alternating year again as well. It would be great if you could do 1 staff per a group, per class if you could, but if you can't, what I suggested was just another good way of doing that. Oh yeah, that's right. Verified volunteers. I always forget we've switched that from Shield the Vulnerable to Verified Volunteers. Thank you, Natalie, for bringing that up. I see a question here about, should anyone be an instructor if they are SDA members? Not necessarily. There has to be, you have to be able to verify that this person, because not every SDA member is a perfect member, because we do live in this fallen world and things have happened. And so you still need to make sure that they meet the criteria that you want them to meet. One other thing is that I feel that somebody, if you haven't known this person for over 6 months, that they need to be able to be verified by somebody else who can verify that they are a good option or a good fit. Now, we live near Andrews University, and so I've had help from university students, but I make sure, like the one I had this last year, she came in I didn't know her for 6 months in advance, but she came in as a recommendation from one of my other staff members, and she had just got done working at camp and had a good recommendation from the summer camp that she went through. So Cheryl, do we have any more questions that I need to answer?
I'm looking over the questions, and I don't see any that you need to cover. We've had very good interaction in the chat room. I'm very grateful you were able to stand in one spot and have your voice be so clear again, Marcia.
Oh, thank you, and I apologize for the challenges beforehand.
Technology is doing an amazing thing to help equip our club directors.
Yep.
We know God is going to be equipping them as well as these things that we're sharing as people who are in the trenches going through similar things to what other club directors are going through. So,
and I would encourage, if you have club directors in your area, connect with them, see what they're doing. Be willing to meet a couple times a year, or even reach out in some way just to say, hey, how are you handling certain situations? This is just really good time for that support, because as a director, sometimes I have felt like there's been certain things I felt like my staff wouldn't totally understand what I was going through. And so I wasn't quite sure I actually knew who I could turn to. I've got support staff. I got support around me. The fact that my sister's a director, my aunt and uncle, who were my directors growing up are available to me to contact. We have our area coordinators who we can work with as well, and I'm very good friends with a couple of our area coordinators here in Michigan. So I have that kind of support, and that's so important because we did have an issue that I went and I was able to talk to our area coordinator as to how I wanted to handle the situation, and they felt like it was done the appropriate way. And I can't say more about the issue, but I can just say that it wasn't an easy issue, but we were able to get through it. Can you respectfully dismiss an instructor? I think you can. I think that if you go to them and you talk with them, because if the kids aren't happy, they aren't happy. I can guarantee that. So I would say, unless it's something glaring that they have done something to that was a totally dismissive offense, that they need to be taken away from the club immediately. But if it's just maybe a conflict, then you try and work that through. If that does not work, or you give them the out, you say, I would say to them, hey, are you really happy in doing this? Or maybe there's a different place in the club that their skills would fit more. But if there, and sometimes there is not an easy way. If the grievance issue is so big, you may just have to work with your pastor and work with, because yeah, don't ever do this alone. Work with your pastor or a head elder. Oh, Renee, you are so lucky. Your Pathfinder Club is able to get all the volunteers they need. The multiple grade school does all the book work and honors. When an honor is taught, all the students learn that honor no matter the material. What's your thoughts on that? Um, then what, okay, if you've got a school that would do that, that is awesome. Then take your club and do outreach ministries with your club. Um, it's an opportunity for you to take the club to a different level than those of us who don't have that school that is able to do that. Renee, does that help in your thinking? You are the school teacher, Renee. Whoa, okay. So are you saying that you want to do this, or you wish the Pathfinder Club would do more? Oh, they have problems with you teaching an 8th grade honor to a 5th grader? That's, yeah, I don't agree with them. I think that honors can be taught at all levels. You just sometimes maybe have to adjust how you're teaching that honor to a 5th grader versus an 8th grader. But this is where you, if the 8th graders catch it the first time through, you have them circle back around to assist the 5th graders and so forth. It's hard being the teacher and doing things and to satisfy all people. I understand, Renee. So I would say get the best buy-in from the most people you can, and realize that you're not going to please everybody, but you're going to do the best that you can. And that's what I would say is important. All right, if that's everything and no more questions.
I don't see any more questions coming on the chat side. So Wednesday at 7 o'clock, we're dealing with the conference and the church board, two of a director's major alleys. So hope folks can come. There's another very good teacher, person who has experience as a club director. So from one servant to another, we're trying to share tips as to how God is equipping us and helping us in ministry. If you have more questions popping in, feel free to email Eric, or I just listed my email in the question and answer site. If there's a resource that you're needing, we're here to serve you. Marcia, thank you so very much for literally standing still long enough for us to hear you, and for sharing your journey as a director. I've caught very diverse ideas, ones I've not heard before, and I very much appreciate tips you're sharing.
Well, you're welcome. It's been my pleasure to share, and believe me, we're all learning together, and I learn something new every time I have a staff meeting. I think I learn something new, and with my meeting with my kids as well. So.
Mm. All right, I'm just going to check the chat and the question and answer one more time.
Okay.
The chat's got thank yous coming in.
Oh, Robin asked the question, can your treasurer be the church treasurer? If that's what you would like them to be and they're willing, then I would say yes.
Unless somebody else pops in with another question, I think this is summing it up. Once again, we covet receiving those worksheets because that's the basis on which the certificates are issued. The worksheets go to our union coordinator, and then we're given the go-ahead to issue the certificates showing that you've participated. We've got all the Master Guide ones out. We thought, just heard tonight that there's another one that needs to be addressed. There were over 500 of them, and it was not automatic. We had to do them one at a time. It's incredible that we're getting to serve so many people, but it was hours and hours of time. Delighted that we get to have this problem and that we're doing it, wrapping up its structure, and then we give a 1 week window so that the worksheet can come in with 1 week of the time that we offer the class. People who register have the option of watching recording and then wrapping up their worksheet. So sending in the worksheets gives us the basis certificate of participation. So the seminars are just part of what you're doing. The other part is lab, which you do live as you're working as a club director. So 2 components to put together and then share with your conference and seek the investiture that you're prepared for. All right. So I think we're good to wrap up here. Yes. All right. Let's sign off here then, unless somebody else is coming in with Marcia. All right. Take care, Marcia, and thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Good night, and God be with you as you journey.
Well, we're almost home. We're about 40 minutes away. So.
All right.
All righty. Thank you.
Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.